Holy Ghost, Batman, by Emma Loran. Chapter 19. Not quite Mall of America, but Wayne Palace. Wayne Palace own-scale department store was bustling on Saturday afternoon. Jazz had insisted it was the most practical choice. One step, everything Danny could possibly need. Danny, however, was already dragging her sneakers across the gleaming tile floor, looking like she'd rather face a pub quiz than a clothing rack. "Come on, kid," Danny said, with a grin, steering her towards the children's section. "You can't live out of one outfit forever. Even I know that." Sam smirked. "That's debatable." "Hey!" Danny protested, but then he cracked a grin at her father's expense. Stephanie was in her element. She strode ahead like a general leading troops, rifling through hangars with both precision and enthusiasm. "Okay, Rule 1, she announced, holding up a frilly sundress with a flourish. "Every girl needs at least one good dress." Danny froze, her eyes narrowing. "Nope," Steph pouted. "Aw, come on. You'd look adorable." "Nope," Danny repeated, folding her arms tightly. Jazz stepped in, gently guiding Stephanie's hand back to the rack. "Maybe start with the basics first. Jeans, shirts, a jacket or two." Sam nodded in agreement, though inside she wasn't surprised by Danny's reaction. Danny had Danny's DNA, Danny's memories, even Danny's mannerisms. For all her bright smiles and boundless energy, girly just didn't come naturally. It wasn't rejection exactly, just unfamiliar territory. Jess thought the same, watching Danny hover near the t-shirt with a quiet relief. They never said it loud, but they all understood. Danny was still figuring herself out, and trying to force lace and ruffles on her wasn't the way. Tim, meanwhile, had taken on the role of logistics manager. He carried the steadily growing pile of jeans, sneakers, and hoodies with calm efficiency, occasionally glancing at price tags, but otherwise letting the group run its course. 2 pairs of sneakers, at least 3 jeans, and enough tops for a week, he said evenly. "That should be a starting rotation." "See?" Danny said with mock indignation. "He gets it." Steph shot him a look. "You're no help." Danny raised his hands in surrender. "Hey, I'm letting her pick what she likes. That's progress for me." The dressing room became a battlefield. Danny emerged in a pair of skinny jeans and a graphic tee, with a mischievous grin plastered across it. "Perfect," Sam said, giving her a thumbs up. Jazz smiled too. "Comfortable." "Yeah," Danny said, tugging at the waistband. "Better than the other ones." Steph groaned dramatically. "Fine, jeans are good, but you can't tell me you're not even a little curious about how you'd look in this." She held up a simple navy dress, not frilly, not over the top, but undeniably a dress. Danny's answer was immediate. "Still nope." "Please." Steph backed, clasping her hands. One try. "Nope." Danny ducked back into the dressing room and shut the door with finality. Danny snickered. "You're not gonna win this one." Steph sighed, flopping onto the bench. Tragic. She'd be so cute. Jazz shot Sam a look, and Sam shrugged, hiding a smile. Danny wasn't rejecting femininity out of spite. It just wasn't her fault. Not yet. Maybe not ever. And that was okay. By the time they left, Danny had a full bag of new clothes, sneakers, hoodies, tees, jeans, and even a leather jacket that Danny had caved on after seeing her puppy dog eyes. No dress, much to Stephanie's despair, but plenty of clothes Danny had picked for herself. She swung the bag happily as they made their way towards the exit, Danny slinging an arm around her shoulder. "See?" he said. "Not so bad." Danny grinned. "Yeah, not so bad." Jazz and Sam shared a quiet, knowing glance as Stephanie muttered something about one day. Tim just shook his head with a smile, already planning where to store the receipts. For Danny, though, it was enough. Clothes she had chosen, comfort she could own, and a family who let her be herself. The group had nearly made it to the escalator when Sam stopped short in front of a bright pastel storefront. The display window featured racks of sleepwear and neat stacks of patterned underwear. Sam exchanged a glance with Jazz. Jazz raised an eyebrow. Steph grinned like she'd been waiting for this. "Wait," Sam said firmly. "We're not done." Danny followed their gaze, her face paling. "Oh no, nope, no way." She looped an arm through hers before she could bolt. "Sorry, kiddo, you can't live in jeans forever. Trust me, pajamas and underwear are not optional." "But," Danny tried, but Cass was already steering her gently towards the entrance. Then he tilted his head. "Do I even want to know?" "Probably not," Sam said, already disappearing inside with Danny in tow. Danny and Tim were left standing awkwardly outside the pastel-colored shop. A few feet away, benches lined the walkway, already filled with other men, dads scrolling their phones, boyfriends holding shopping bags, one guy asleep with his head tilted back. Tim cleared his throat. "I think this is our stop." Danny sighed, defeated. The dad zone. They sat down among the other resigned faces, each with a bag or two at their feet. Danny leaned back and muttered, "Feels like exile." Tim smirked faintly. "It's survival. Nobody wins when you follow them in there." Danny glanced towards the shop windows, catching a glimpse of Danny looking mortified as Sam held up a pack of pajama shorts. "Poor kid. She didn't stand a chance. None of us ever do," Tim said dryly, nodding towards another man and emerging from the lingerie section loaded with bags. Danny chuckled, shaking his head. "At least she's got people who care enough to force the issue. Left alone, she'd just keep wearing her hoodie until it turned to dust." Tim gave him a sidelong look, quiet but approving. "She will thank them later, even if not today." Danny nodded, though his eyes stayed on the store window. Danny's discomfort was written all over her, but so was trust. She was letting the girls shepherd her through it, and for once, Danny didn't try to rescue her. "So where did Aunt Cass even come from?" "We stopped asking that question a long while ago." "Guess some things," he said, "you gotta let the girls handle." Tim's mouth quirked upward. "Exactly." They settled into the rhythm of the dad zone, the quiet camaraderie of men waiting while their daughters and sisters made their purchases that were inevitable. When Danny finally emerged from the pastel-lit shop, her eyes were red, and she clutched a modest shopping bag like it contained state secrets. Sam, Jazz, and Steph followed, chatting easily, while Cassandra trailed behind, expression unreadable, but faintly amused. Danny stood from the bench. "Survived?" Danny shot him a glare that was more embarrassment than anger. Don't talk about it." Steph ruffled her hair, unfazed. "You did great, see? Not so bad." Danny huffed, but didn't protest, hugging the bag closer to her chest. Tim rose as well, straightening his jacket. "That should cover the essentials," he said smoothly, as though they just secured provisions for an expedition. "Shall we?" Danny muttered, "Let's go home," and started walking ahead of the group, her sneakers squeaking faintly on the polished tile. Danny fell into step beside her, giving her shoulder a reassuring squeeze. "Hey, everyone has to do this, even me. Remember that the next time you want to make fun of my socks." That earned the smallest grin, which Danny counted as a victory. By evening, the shopping bags had been sorted into piles in the guest wing of Wayne Manor. Shoes by the door, jackets hung neatly in the wardrobe, stacks of folded jeans and shirts waiting to be put away. Danny sat cross-legged on the bed, tugging at the sleeve of her brand-new hoodie like she couldn't believe it was actually hers. There was a knock on the door frame. Alfred stood there, tray in hand, with a teapot and several cups. "I took the liberty of preparing refreshments," he said. "Shopping in my experience, can be as exhausting as it is necessary. Sam chuckled. You're not wrong. Alfred set the tray down and glanced at the open bags. I see Mistress Danielle has been probably outfitted at last. Danny flushed. Yeah, I guess. Alfred's lips curved ever so slightly. An admirable outcome, though I imagine some of the progress was spirited. Danny laughed. You have no idea. Alfred poured the tea with his usual precision, then set a cup in front of Danny. You will, in time, appreciate the practicality of such errands. For now, be assured you have done quite well. Few can emerge from such endeavors intact. The dry humor landed perfectly. Danny blinked, then broke into a small laugh. Thanks, Mr. Alfred. Think nothing of it, he said, with a dignified bow. Now, milk, sugar, or both? Wayne Manor, sitting room, late evening. It was the second night of Danny's spring break trip to Gotham. The immediate family had been happy to show the visitors around the manor and went over the schedule of major sights to see for the rest of the week. Now they were all just curled up, hanging out with Tim and Steph. The fire crackled lazily in the hearth, shadows flickering over the ornate crown molding. The sitting room had that faint scent of old wood and polish that made everything feel both warm and intimidating, like a room that had seen far too many secrets to be casual company. Danny lounged back on one of the deep armchairs, smirking. You never did tell me, he began. What was up with Avian Dapper? Were you like a big Avian and the Chipmunks fan? Or trying to make a Madman reference? Danny giggled from her spot on the couch, swinging her legs. Steph glanced over with a warm but pointed look. Hey, girls, if you don't mind, we wanted to chat with Danny for a bit before bed. Danny's eyes went wide with a mock alarm. Uh-oh, someone's in trouble. He's not in trouble, sweetie, Steph assured, smiling. It's just getting late, and we want to talk to your dad without all the family around. Oh yeah, that's cool, Sam said from the arm of the couch. I'm sure you have a lot to talk about. Steph stood and put a hand on Danny's shoulder. Come on, Danny. You can stay with me tonight. Danny rose, but before following Jazz, she clasped her hands together in an exaggerated prayer pose at Danny. Eyes skyward. Danny rolled his eyes, but a corner of his mouth twitched upward. Night, Grandma. Night, Grandpa. Sayonara, Dad, Danny said as she walked out, then tilted her head towards Jazz a little down the hallway. When they were more out of earshot, she asked, So if Danny is Dad now, does it make you Aunt Jazz? Jazz froze mid-step, touched. I think I would like that very much. Sam raised an eyebrow. So what am I? Danny smirked over her shoulder. You will find out when you're older. Sam scoffed in mock injury. Oh, thanks, she said, disappearing into her room. Once they were in Jazz's room, the mood shifted. Jazz sat cross-legged on the bed, while Danny sat at the edge. So, Jazz asked, gently, how do you feel about Sam and Danny? Danny's eyes softened. Oh, Sam's great. She is really good with Dad. I wish we'd spent more time together before now. It's just, I really like her. And the logical leap would be to call your dad's partner Mom, but I'm too scared of losing that connection. My first real mom to teenage romance problems. If they break up before they're even 18 or something. She trailed off. Jazz tilted her head. Don't you think that's a little unfair to Sam? Oh, definitely, Danny admitted. Which is why I can't say it. I can't tell her I want her to be Mom when I'm scared of me and Dad not being good enough for her. Oh, honey. Jazz pulled her into a hug. Just outside the door, Sam, having paused mid-step, heading to the bathroom, stood with a hand to her heart, cheeks flushed. She wants me to be her mom? Back in the sitting room, Tim chuckled. leaning forward. Right, so Alvin Damper. Honestly, in modern terms, I came up with that with zero thoughts, just vibes. Steph grinned. You did wear a red jacket and sunglasses with it. I never even made that connection before, she giggled. Tim smirked. Dean was all on your mother, though. Danny tilted his head, still not sure who this Dean guy they kept mentioning was. Let me guess, Richard Dean Anderson? McRavier. Steph laughed. Ha! No, but that's a good one. She didn't pick up again for a minute, but Danny and Tim could tell she had something else to say, so they didn't interrupt. Stephanie sat with one ankle hooked over the other, hands clasped loosely in her lap. She'd been staring at the corner of the table for so long that it seemed like she was memorizing the grain. I mean, there was a guy in my life named Dean, but I wouldn't want to associate you with him. He was the furthest thing from my mind, but I let him make that decision for a bit. It's about my family, and that's, she said, not looking up. That's tricky. Her fingers tapped once against her knee, then stilled. My dad and I, she stopped, corrected herself. We don't talk. Haven't for a long time. Before things changed. We were already halfway there. Prison just made it official. She shrugged, like it didn't matter, though the muscles in her jaw said otherwise. Things fell apart before he was out of the picture completely. It wasn't one big fight, just a lot of little things, and me realizing I couldn't keep pretending things were okay. It's the kind of distance you don't come back from. My mom's not exactly in my contacts either. Sometimes walking away is just cleaner. I don't really talk about my family, she said finally, her voice quiet but steady. Not because I'm hiding something bad. Well, not exactly. It's just complicated. There was a pause, long enough that she could almost feel the weight of curiosity pressing against her. She took a slow breath. Her lips twitched in something halfway between a smirk and a grimace. When I was younger, things weren't always bad. Before he lost his job, before the arguing, before I saw who he really was. He could be fun. He was a massive pop culture nerd. Movies, comics, trivia nights at the dinner, the whole thing. He knew all the lines from Casablanca and could tell you the release date of some obscure sci-fi B-movie like it was important history. Could quote half of Hollywood history like it was sacred scripture or something. I think Tim's look as Avon Damper reminded me of James Dean. She allowed herself a small, wistful smile. We had this marathon once, my dad and I, watched every James Dean movie. Every single one, not just Rebel Without a Cause, but the rest too. He paused the scenes to talk about what Dean was really feeling, like he knew him personally. He pointed out little details, how Dean tilted his head, the way he held a cigarette, and say it meant something. He talked about how Dean played characters who didn't quite fit the world around them, and how that made them real at the time. I thought that was just his way of being dramatic. Now, I think maybe he was telling me more about himself than I realized. The warmth faded as quickly as it came. It's ancient history now. The smile faded now. She glanced toward the window, eyes tracking nothing in particular. That version of him, the one who laughed, the one who made the living room smell like burnt popcorn. That's a long time ago. The smile faded. That's not the man I see now. And it's not the one I can pretend to see. My mom, she wasn't much better. She'd make excuses for him, gloss over things I knew weren't okay. Enabling isn't love, but she never seemed to see the difference. So we didn't really talk either. Her voice thinned on the last few words, but she caught herself and straightened, setting her expression into something lighter. Anyway, people change. Sometimes you have to decide which memories you keep and which ones you leave behind. She let the pause stretch until it felt intentional, then met their gaze for the first time. I don't really have more to say about it. Stephanie finally looked up, meeting Danny's gaze with a firm, final kind of expression. That's all I'm willing to say. I can't give you the rest, and you probably won't want it either. Then he nodded in understanding. I think it's your turn to be bad cop, Tim. Tim looked at him in confusion. What do you mean? Then he crossed his arms and looked at the two, his biological parents, but not the parents who raised him, with skepticism. Isolate me from emotional support. Get close to me with jokes and a heartfelt story. What do you actually want to talk about? Tim and Steph shared a look. They had planned this talk, but they hadn't planned to come off like they were trying to manipulate him. They didn't think Danny was skittish enough to jump to that conclusion either. He was really well adjusted, considering what they suspected. Steph started it off. We didn't mean to come off that way. I mean, obviously, we wanted to talk to you, but the conversation just went where it went. We're sorry if we made you uncomfortable. Tim leaned forward, sliding forward to the edge of his seat. Honestly, we are worried about you. Whatever you and Jess said yesterday about how you met Danny, we just want to know about that situation. Then he looked defensive again. It was years ago now. Why bring it up now? It's not like you could do anything about it. Tim shook his head. It's not over for you, Danny. We're worried about your situation in Amity Park. You mentioned Flatmasters, the former mayor, right? Danny nodded. He was my parents' defendant's friend from college. He's always loved my mom and hated my dad for winning her over. Yeah, he was mayor for a while there, but so was Tucker. We don't really have problems with Flat anymore, like we used to. Steph looked legitimately upset by that, much to Danny's surprise. What do you mean, Danny? What happened? Danny looked conflicted. Some secrets weren't his to tell, and some wouldn't be believed if he told them. I'm different. A lot of people in the area are. We had issues with groups who were discriminatory about people like us. Vlad used his position to help them, despite being like us, because he hoped it would help him get what he wanted. Tim stared at Danny for a moment, pieces falling into place. The lab had needed to run his DNA 3 separate times for clear results. Danny, are you a meta? Danny considered it for a moment. It never really occurred to him that maybe he and Vlad only survived because they activated compartable meta gene when the portal activated. The odds were astronomical. Yeah, I guess that's a way to describe it. Danny is too. Tim and Steph shared another look. That made sense. The gene was hereditary. They both had the same thought. Meta-human trafficking ring. Their theory about sexual assault wasn't dismissed, but the situation was clearer to them now. Do you mind if we let some friends know to look into that situation? I know someone with that kind of money and power must seem intimidating, but we know people who fight that kind of corruption every day. Then he shook his head. Whatever the misunderstanding was, it was getting out of hand. I'd prefer it if you didn't. And please don't share me and Danny being metas with the rest of the family. I hear Batman doesn't like metas in his city, and I really don't want to find out. Tim smiled a bit. I don't think that will be a problem. Batman doesn't bother metas who don't use their powers to hurt people or fight crime in the city without his supervision. Signals are meta, after all. Then he considered that. He had heard of the light-powered superhero from Tucker's rambling introduction to Gotham on the train ride over. I'd still like to keep it under wraps if we can. Tim nodded in agreement, clearly accepting this condition. Then would you mind if we do a DNA test? Then he froze, eyes wide in disbelief at the question, insulted even. Does my meta status mean I couldn't possibly be a Wayne? The words dripped with venom and the ambient temperature in the room dropped noticeably. Tim, alarmed, looked like he'd been slapped. That's not at all what I meant. I'm adopted, too, if you will recall. Danny actually didn't know that about him, and it blunted a little of his anger. Steph spoke in a calming voice. Danny, we didn't mean to alarm you. We know you're our son. We knew the moment we saw you, just like we know Danny is your little girl. But the Waynes have kind of a high profile. Tim cut in. Please don't take it to mean you have a standard to meet. It's just that people will try to hurt you to get to us. Not just in a criminal way either. There are government agencies that harass metahumans despite civil rights laws protecting them. The only blood test we have connecting us is from when you were born, and I used an Alice for that. If we want solid legal protections for you, we will have to clear that up legally, and a recent blood test confirming parentage along with your adoption paper will go a long way. That took a lot of the fight out of Danny's eyes. It made sense if there were agencies like the GIY, but for metas, it would help a lot to get ahead of any future problems earlier. The more paperwork he and Danny had saying they were metas, the more protected they would be from the GIY too. Danny held out his arm. So do you need, some blood or something? Steph chuckled and shifted over to share his couch. She ruffled his hair, her hand coming away with a few loose strands. Nope, just some hair. See? All done. Danny grinned and straightened out his hair again. So what about Danny? She doesn't really have paperwork. Mom and Dad, the Fentons, were planning to adopt her, but that's kind of hard when she doesn't have anything saying she exists. We'd get rated by ICE or CPS or something. Tim considered it. I will make some calls. You'll get something figured out. Sometimes the power of money is the best superpower. Danny nodded and let out a yawn. Sorry, it's been an emotional roller coaster the last 2 weeks. Steph grinned and gave him a hug. It's alright, kiddo. You go get some sleep. Danny said his good nights and retreated to his room to muse over the situation until he passed out. Once he was gone, though, Steph held up her hand. The hair is still clutched between her fingers. For confirmation, I guess. Tim nodded and added the sample to an envelope, which he slid into his pocket alongside one labeled Danny. I used the same trick earlier. We will get the test results in a few days. And that was the chapter! I hope you liked it. If you did, leave a like. What the fuck? Sorry. If you like my videos in general, feel free to subscribe and share the video. God damn it, there are so many sounds around. I don't know if the door slamming is in there. Is there something else I need to say? I don't know. I need to speed this up because I need to work in a few minutes. So, I'm probably gonna add something to the outro later, but I'm probably gonna make another
commission arrow.
What? Commission? Oh, thank you.
You forgot that. You forgot the commission.
Okay, I do Podfic commissions. If you want, if you want me to read your fanfiction or another person's fanfiction, either privately or for yourself or for other people, you can commission me. Infos to that are on the screen or in the channel description. Also, if you commission something, you would get early access to my Discord server, which I let everybody on when this channel reaches 2,000 subscribers. So now you have more reason to subscribe. If a video gets commissioned from me, you will see the sponsor of it in the description, and I will probably mention them in the outro. So yeah, I'm gonna add that. I did not add that before, which is sad, but now I remember that's supposed to be a thing, so I'm not now doing that. This story is sponsored by Faith Hellman. I put the link to her channel in the description. I really did not like this chapter, to be honest. The other chapters are great and all, but this one is not my favorite, definitely not. But I hope you enjoyed it. Now, since this recording took so long to make again, I have the treat of recording highlights once more for you. Danny, however, was already dragging her... Was it my imagination or did something make a ringing sound? I don't know. was puzzling on Why the fuck am I laughing again? Was puzzling on There we go again. I'm a bit too excited, I think, or stressed or something. But oh well. Danny froze. Eyes narrowing. There is something fucking making noise in my fucking bag. Okay, I'm gonna throw my phone onto the other side of this bed, so. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna mute the fucking shit. That is a good choice. I should mute that fucking thing because otherwise it will drive me insane. Okay, there we go. Where was I? Ruffles? I'm gonna go and translator. Oh, that's the wrong fucking letter. Okay, let's see.
Ruffles.
It is Ruffles. Good. Okay, then I don't need to change it. Then he wasn't rejecting Danny wasn't rejecting femininity. No. Receipts. Why the fuck did I not? Okay. Sam exchanged a glance with. Sam exchanged a blah blah blah. But Kaz already steering her greatly, emerging from the lingerie section, loaded with bags. Did I say that right? I'm gonna check.
Lingerie.
Nodding towards a man, they settled into the rhyme of the dead zone. No, they said it. The quiet, commandery. Remember that the next time you want to make fun of my socks. Brain short-circuited on the word again. That is the wrong window.
Admirable.
As admirable. No, appreciate the practice of such. Appreciate the practicality. Appreciate the practicality of such errands. Appreciate the firecracker lazily in the heat and the firecracker lazily in the heat. The fire crackled lazily in the hearth. What? Is it heart or heat or I don't know. Wait, let me check. This fucking H at the end was like confusing me so hard.
Hearth.
It's not heart, it's hearth. Apparently. The firecracker lazily.
It's hard. Hard.
You fucking spooked me.
Not hearth.
You spooked me.
Don't confuse an F with the TH sound, please.
You spooked me.
Oh, sorry, I meant the other way around. Like, don't confuse the TH sound with an F sound. Yeah. And yeah, sorry, I spooked you.
Okay. In an you know what? I'm gonna show you. Because I do not know how to say this. And I should know how to say this, but my brain was like, nope. This word.
Exaggerated.
Thank you. Shaz said Chris. She's really good at Dad. No, oops. Dean was all on your mother. Dean was all on your mom. Dean was all McRaver? No, McRavy? No, I don't know. I do not know. Zag? Zag? I'm gonna say McGravy because McGravier. She said he knew all the lines from Casablancia. Casablancia? No, I don't know. I'm gonna check just to be sure because I don't know that show and I don't know the show.
Casablanca.
Casablanca, okay. Steph started off discriminatory. Discriminatory, no. Guess and Sag is not answering. I'm using
Discriminatory.
Ha! How are you there again?
Hey,
How are you here again?
You said something about my name?
Last time I called you, you did not respond. So I was like, that's just a translator again.
Yeah, sorry. I was making some coffee downstairs. Anyway, I'm gonna stop talking now.
Discriminatory, right?
Discriminatory.
Discriminatory, okay. The gene was Hereditary. Thanks. Their theory about sexual assault wasn't diminished. No, clearly accepting this Danny actually didn't know about that. Danny actually didn't know about him. No, Danny actually... Okay, have a nice rest of your time, and see you next time.